Chapter 8, Part 2. Las Vegas hostage taker makes demands. I scrambled to turn up the volume as my information-starved brain thought out every detail. The man's manner was calm and confident as he faced down the soon-to-be millions of viewers whose lives had been thrust into turmoil by his hand. Calm and confident, from a safe distance, of course. He was clean-shaven with light brown hair and a professional side part. He wore a dark navy suit jacket paired with a pale blue shirt, a color that, according to various academic studies, was perceived as trustworthy. The camera frame was perhaps intentionally similar to that of the news anchors we had just been watching, showing a sliver of the desk he was seated behind and stretching to a few inches above his head. He looked about the same age as some of the more senior news anchors, too. In his early 50s, maybe. But there was a stiffness to his face that suggested more than one round of cosmetic surgery, making his true age hard to peg. Anti-aging treatments aside, he was making no attempt to conceal his appearance, but the video setup had been carefully arranged to give us nothing that might point to his location. Artificial lighting, a featureless off-white wall with nothing on it except a hole where a screw had been removed, and that sliver of stained oak desk. "My good people of Las Vegas," he began, "no doubt many of you are wondering why you find yourselves in this predicament." His face shifted in and out of a smile so practiced that it had been drained of all meaning. "Bear with me while I explain." Then he clasped his hands together on the desk in front of him and deadpanned into the camera like a wannabe David Attenborough. 23 years ago, the supernatural community banded together and inflicted magic on humankind. They did it without consulting us, and even now, decades later, they refuse to share how such a feat was done. It is clear that despite their lip service, they do not trust or respect us as equals. I groaned. I had heard this rhetoric before. As far as I was concerned, not telling us how they'd done it was about as mysterious as why the government didn't grant access to the nuke codes. I knew not everyone saw it that way, and that everyone was entitled to their opinion, but it was this sort of conspiracy garbage that propagated negative sentiment towards the supernaturals and empowered kids like Braden, no doubt emulating his parents, to tell my 6-year-old sister to go back to hell and die. Those sentiments turned even more dangerous when the little Bradens of the world grew up. Well, now that I have the country's attention, this time the smile that flickered across his face was unstudied and self-satisfied. I, for one, am uncomfortable with this power imbalance. What's to stop them from deciding to tear magic from us as forcefully and thoughtlessly as they bestowed it? Humankind must overcome this power imbalance and achieve magical independence, or live forever at their mercy. I'd encountered this one before, too. They were simultaneously angry at being given magic and angry they hadn't been given more. Blah, blah, blah. But what on earth did that have to do with the Las Vegas hostage situation? Who the hell was this guy? Whoever he was, he leaned into the camera. Let me tell you a little secret that the supernaturals don't want you to know. During the long dramatic pause that followed, I checked off a few of the wilder conspiracy theories on my fingers. The world is flat, but the Fae glamoured it to look round to hide the existence of fairy. A werewolf pack killed JFK for having an affair with the Alpha's daughter. And the Easter Bunny was fabricated to give the horned, carnivorous, rabbit-like Almirage easy access to its favorite snack, human children. What the man actually said was, if they truly wanted to offer humankind equal footing, all they'd need to do was gift us with a single powerful artifact. an artifact they used to bring about the magic revolution, an artifact without which they would not have the ability to reverse what has been done. The Iron Key. The Iron Key. I chafed, caught behind grudging curiosity and wishing that he'd get to the damn point, the part where any of this mattered to the people of Las Vegas. He picked up something from the desk and held it up for his audience. A printed photo of a teenage girl with the same light brown hair, only hers was long and dyed blue at the ends. She was hugging her knees and her eyes were overshadowed by dark makeup, but the smile she gave to whoever was behind the camera was genuine. This is my darling daughter, my Madison. She's turning 18 next month, and for the past several years, she has worked tirelessly to identify and locate this artifact on behalf of humankind. Recently, she made a huge breakthrough and discovered that the Iron Key had been jealously hoarded in Fairy all of this time. Doing nothing, benefiting no one. It is little wonder that the Fae are so standoffish, so rarely seen outside of their beloved land. Little wonder they grant visas to an exclusive few. They don't trust us, yet they expect us to trust them. The daughter looked vaguely familiar, and the name Madison rang a bell, too. Why? Well, after learning this, Madison jumped through all the right hoops and was granted a visa to enter Fairy. A few days later, she rang me to say that she'd found the key. That it exists. That she couldn't wait to share with the world what they had kept for themselves. And then the Fae arrested her on trumped-up charges. For the first time since beginning his spiel, the man in blue didn't look quite so relaxed. For 3 weeks, I have pleaded with the Fae to provide evidence of her alleged crimes to allow her to stand trial in her own country. But they refused to hear me, refused to negotiate, refused to grant me a visa to visit my own precious daughter. They won't even let me talk to her on the phone. Perhaps noticing that his hands were beginning to clench, he clasped them in front of him again. They have left me with no other choice but to force them to negotiate. His tone had turned brittle with what I suspected was real emotion. But going to Fairy was like traveling anywhere else. You agreed to be bound by the laws of that country. And I suddenly remembered why her name and face seemed familiar. Madison Hale had tried to steal the artifact, which meant the Fae were well within their rights to imprison her for it. So this is my message to the Fae. Another studied pause as he composed himself, one that would have the viewers leaning in to listen. Return my daughter to me, with her mind intact. Let her speak the truth of what she has seen, and as a added measure of good faith, send the Iron Key with her. Or thousands will die for your selfishness. Not humans, since I doubt you'd lift a finger for us, but thousands of your fellow supernaturals, and the world will learn the truth about your nature and treat you with the contempt you deserve. Fury and terror punched through me as my worst fears were realized. The anti-magic trap was exactly that. This jackass was purposely threatening my family and every other supernatural inside the dome. He cut in before I could even begin to process that. And to the good people of Las Vegas, I apologize for the inconvenience, but this is just a taste of why we need to control our own magic, of what we'd be left with if the supernaturals changed their mind. No one needs to die. The decision lies in the hands and hearts of the Fae. He was silent for 3 painful heartbeats. Let us hope they aren't not so callous as their treatment of my daughter has made them seem. The broadcast ended. Blood beat a hot, angry rhythm in my skull, and I distantly noticed that my ears were ringing. No one needs to die. At least 3 people had already lost their lives from colliding with the barrier, and those numbers were doubtless climbing as the sick and injured were denied magically assisted medical treatment. Meanwhile, he was threatening to massacre thousands of innocents for his own agenda. Hundreds of thousands if something didn't give. Was he seriously trying to paint himself as the victim? As the good guy? Yet many would buy it, I realized. The people who'd already demonized those different from them. They would use this propaganda to shore up their own beliefs. They would even celebrate when supernatural suffered and died. When my family suffered and died. No, damn it, this was not going to happen. This could not happen. I was so worked up that I had forgotten whose hotel room I was standing in, or even that I was standing in a hotel room, until a surprise lungful of smoke launched me into a coughing fit. "Where is he?" Aurelis demanded. Smoke was escaping between her teeth, and her powerful body was coiled with tension, tail lashing at dangerous speed. In contrast, her voice was soft with menace. "I'm going to bite off his stupid, smug head." I stared at her for a moment, stomping down the familiar urge to flee, and tried to rally my usual lecture on upholding the values of the LVMPD. But all I could think of was how much I wanted to punch him in his stupid, smug face first. End of chapter 9.